but will be global announcements that are going to be all over the world. And it's also great to see so many Sony imaging advocates in the audience. And I'd also like to welcome all of you that are joining us live stream. Today, we will validate two unwavering commitments that are core to Sony. One, innovation. And today's announcements are filled with innovation that only an industry-leading imaging company could deliver. And two, proof that we are genuinely listening to our customers. Our customers, creators, professional photographers, enthusiasts, and end users alike. We want to know your pain points and obstacles that you encounter in your craft daily so that we can resolve them and allow you to do what you do best so we can do what we enjoy best. Create and capture that once-in-a-lifetime moment. And I'm very pleased to say that our customers are responding very favorably. As you may have seen in the news recently, Sony has taken a solid #2 position in the full-frame camera market. But it gets better. And more importantly, as you can see in this chart, we're not only growing ourselves, but we're driving growth for this great industry. But let me be perfectly clear. We are not taking this for granted, and we will continue to earn your loyalty by listening, asking questions, and delivering innovative tools. However, today, don't take my word for it, although I would like you to take my word for it. But for the next 45 minutes or so, we have an exciting program that will convince you, and it includes a panel of esteemed, world-renowned professional photographers, and you'll be hearing from them and their experiences, as well as from experts from Sony Engineering and Sony Sales and Marketing. And when we're done, or actually, when we unveil today's announcements, we want you to scream, "Wow!" It's a term we frequently use internally, and we call it COMDO. So to kick things off, from the engineering and global market perspective, please join me in welcoming the worldwide Senior General Manager of Digital Imaging and my good friend, Kenji Tanaka.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here today. I'm Kenji Tanaka. I oversee the interchangeable lens camera business for Sony. Today, I would like to talk about the new era of digital imaging. First, let's take a look at the environment of the worldwide interchangeable lens camera industry. The chart on the left shows the increasing component ratio of full-frame bodies in the total interchangeable lens market. And the chart on the right shows the increase of full-frame lenses. As these charts show, Sony's full-frame business has been rapidly increasing in both bodies and lenses. Despite the huge impact of the 2016 Kumamoto earthquake, we have achieved continuous growth during the last several years. This success has been supported by many professionals worldwide. Today, the number of pros using Sony's equipment continues to grow. Their voice has been critical to our product development which leads to our innovations. The passion and imagination of creators keeps expanding. Hence, our innovation must never stop. On April 16, 2016, a huge earthquake hit the Kumamoto area in Japan, and Sony's image sensor factory was severely damaged. Soon afterwards, the entire Kumamoto staff and related members of the Sony group worked together as one team to restore the factory, and operation restarted finally. In this quake restoration, we had another important mission. That was to continue and perfectly complete the project of new image sensor that we were developing. The new image sensor was a dream image sensor that would create a new digital imaging era. The dream was to unleash the true potential of creation by breaking the current limitation of camera capabilities. The dream created a history-making innovations, and now, a year later, I am proud to introduce a new camera equipped with new image sensor. Today is the day we have long been waiting for. equipped with a full-frame stacked CMOS image sensor. And in addition to this camera, we are also introducing a new full-frame. This is the camera and lens. welcome you to the new era of digital imaging. Sony will continue to deliver new imaging experience which have never before existed. And now, I will pass on to my friend Neil for more details about new camera and lens. So thank you very much for your
Thank you, Kenji-san. Hi, I'm Neil Manowitz. I'm in charge of digital imaging here in North America. And I am so glad to be with you today to share with you our new developments. First, Alpha 9. This camera was developed to create a new era of digital imaging. This is the birth of the true digital age. Let's look back. By the middle of the last century, the single lens reflex camera was born. And in spite of the reputation for speed, the need for a mechanical mirror and shutter limited their performance. Ironically, even in the digital age, the pursuit of speed has depended upon faster mechanisms. Photography has been held back by the limitations of last century's technology. So what if these mechanisms could be replaced by digital components that were not bound by these limitations? It creates a better, faster, smaller, and lighter camera. We welcome you to the true digital age. And the heart of the breakthrough is this image sensor. This is the world's first 35mm full-frame stacked CMOS sensor. It's 20 times faster data speeds that replaces the need for mechanisms of conventional DSLRs. Alpha 9. This is the most technologically advanced, innovative camera that Sony has ever created. Alpha 9 offers a level of imaging performance that is simply unmatched by any camera ever made, mirrorless, DSLR, or otherwise. And again, all of this is made possible from the world's first 35mm full-frame stacked CMOS sensor with 24 megapixels. Let me introduce a few of the highlights of this revolutionary camera. First, 20 frames per second continuous shooting with autofocus and exposure calculations happening at 60 times per second. It's okay to ooh and ah. We do it also. Absolutely no viewfinder blackout. A completely silent shutter that is also vibration free. Woo! Also, we have the ability to capture images with a shutter speed of 1/32,000th of a second. And an amazing autofocus system, 693 autofocus points covering over 90% of the frame. Next, let me share with you how this camera lets you capture action like never before. So Alpha 9 achieves 20 frames per second of continuous shooting with 60 focus and exposure calculations every second. And you can maintain this shooting speed for over 200 raw images. The incredible 693 phase detection autofocus points covers over 90% of the frame. And with the maximum shutter speed of 1/32,000th of a second, the Alpha 9 enables you to capture the decisive moment with even the fastest moving subjects. So next, what if you could have a camera that let you follow the action without any interruption? This camera not only captures way higher accuracy than ever before, it also is about continuously viewing the action without any interruption. So when the shutter is released, while shooting, the electronic viewfinder functions with absolutely no blackout. So for the first time, you can actually see the decisive moment when it's captured. This combines the benefits of an electronic viewfinder with the immediacy that not even the finest optical viewfinder can ever match. And what if you could have a camera that would let you capture the moment without making a single sound? Not only can Alpha 9 capture 20 frames per second of uninterrupted view, but it can also do this with vibration-free electronic shutter with absolutely no mechanical mirror or shutter noise, making it an extremely powerful photographic tool for shooting situations that demand silent operation. This camera's design rewrites the rules on where image capture is appropriate or even allowed. And Alpha 9, with the great feedback from so many photographers, was built from the ground up to really address the needs of the professional photographer. For example, we have a new battery system that has double the capacity previously available. It's really good to cheer because the engineers are watching this right now. At midnight in Japan, I promise you. I got 10 calls this morning from them, all so excited to share with you their innovation. But also we have dual media card slots, direct access controls, customizable menus, Ethernet connectivity, and way more. And all of this is in a compact, lightweight body that is half the size and weight of other cameras in its class. So, we hope you can agree that Alpha 9 creates a new era in digital imaging. This is the birth of the true digital age. What do you guys think? So the question is, when and how much? I can feel it. So let's answer that. So Alpha 9 will be available next month for $4,500 in the US and $5,600 in Canadian. And pre-orders begin this Friday. So, the other half in the partnership. Let's move on to the lens. This is a 100 to 400 millimeter G Master telephoto lens. And it was really created to bring out the best in Alpha 9. The lens expands the flagship G Master series and leverages the capabilities of Alpha 9 to create a whole new imaging experience. It features outstanding corner-to-corner sharpness and beautiful bokeh, fast, precise, and quiet autofocus performance, and all in a class-leading lightweight design. Here you can see a few examples of the outstanding sharpness and beautifully rendered bokeh. And in order to keep up with the fast-moving action, this lens features two focusing groups with rapid drive acceleration to capture the sudden motion of sports and wildlife photography. This helps deliver the maximum autofocus performance of the Alpha 9. And while keeping true to the philosophy of G Master with amazing sharpness and beautiful bokeh, this lens expands the reach and performance of our full-frame lens lineup. In this model, this lens will be available in July for $2,500 in the US and $3,400 in Canada. And pre-orders begin this Friday. So, with such innovations that address the needs of the professional photographers, we also must increase our level of professional service and support. And as the challenger in this market, we have a great opportunity to meet and ultimately exceed their expectations. And we are listening. And that's why I'm happy to share with you that we're expanding the Sony Imaging Pro support in North America, whose mission is to provide best-in-class support for working professionals. And this includes a team of Sony employees located throughout North America for in-the-field support, a 24/7 dedicated call center, advanced repair loans with next day arrival to minimize downtime, product evaluation loans, and we're opening a walk-in location both in New York and LA for one-on-one support. And there's much more to come. So, also, I'm happy to be able to share with you that we're expanding Sony Imaging Pro support to Canada. Canada's in the house. And this adds to the growing list of countries worldwide with the goal of supporting pros wherever they are. So you heard from us on our innovation in cameras, lenses, and even professional support. But what matters most is the voice of our customer, the professional photographer. So let's hear from them. Thank you so much.
This camera is a revolutionary change.
It gives you a whole new way of looking at what you're shooting.
It really is like nothing I've ever seen before.
The age of DSLR being the kingpin, the big boy on the block, is over.
I think they're sending a message to the professional photo community, if you like, that we're going to be taken seriously.
You're going to have a piece of equipment in your hand that really enhances how you do your job and makes you better at it.
My first impressions of this camera were wow. You know, it was a game changer. It really let me believe that this camera can do what I want to do within photography.
When someone handed me the camera this morning, they said, you need to forget how you shot with the other cameras you've had, because this is a different experience. And it is a whole different experience.
They have such a fresh look at what a camera is, what a camera should be.
Somebody has really worked hard on the engineering side of that camera.
Refining it and to where the interface and the technology meet, and that it enables people to really do the best work they can do.
Right off the bat, the camera's EVF is the best of any Sony cameras.
It's extremely high resolution, very impressive. It looks like I'm looking at my subject as if the camera weren't even there.
With this camera, I can shoot 20 frames per second. So right off the bat, I can get double the number of frames.
They're very responsive. You know, when you put your foot down on the pedal, they really go.
This camera, just you cannot miss with this thing.
Having that combination of very, very fast speed combined with silent shooting is the perfect tool for shooting wildlife. Even underwater, you know, when you're photographing whales or sharks, you know, they hear that clicking sound and you can immediately see how they change their behavior.
The fact that the camera itself is silent and the way you can shoot and not have a noise to interrupt your subject is undeniably a game changer.
Your camera isn't becoming part of the story as much as you're just someone that happens to be there and capture that. And that is really key, and that is really important, and this solves one of those problems.
I do on a regular basis get images that I know I would have missed before with the DSLR. The 4D autofocus system is not just fast, it's not just accurate, it's smart as hell.
But when Sony does something like this, it just improves the world of photojournalism.
Now we can push the envelope of our own visual representation of how we want to talk by creating new images because of the technology that's there.
for me, this is the ultimate camera. You know, if I never saw another camera, this would be the one.
Every time a new model rolls out, they give us something else that, you know, even a guy with my experience would look at that and go, oh my God, that's awesome. I never would have thought to ask for that, and now I have it.
Well, this is a lot of fun. We've done launches before, but this is cool to actually sit up here with a lot of my good friends and my heroes and share experiences of actually shooting with the camera. So I'm Brian Smith. I'm a Sony artisan. I make my living shooting celebrity portrait photography, but years ago I did a lot of sports and news, and along the way won a Pulitzer Prize World Press Photo Pictures of the Year. So I'm really excited about what these cameras can do, and I'm really excited to be here with an illustrious panel. So I'm going to kick this over to my dear friend Christina. Tell us a little bit about yourself, all of you guys.
Yeah, first of all, it's really exciting to be here. My name is Christina Mittermeier. I'm a contributing photographer with National Geographic, and I'm the founder and president of an organization called Sea Legacy that uses photography to try to promote conservation of the ocean. I work in very remote, harsh environments, and I love my work.
David Burnett, I am co-founder of Contact Press Images Photographic Agency. I've been a photojournalist for 50 years. Sorry. Won the Robert Capa Award, World Press Photo, and was Magazine Photographer of the Year. And have had a really fun time. Well, we'll get into it, but this has been really fun.
I'm Rick Wilking. I've only got 40 years now, like my friend Matthew Brady here. I'm a photojournalist. I work for Reuters News Agency. I'm based in Denver. And my experience has been global. I was based in Europe, covered Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and in the White House. So I've been in a lot of situations that I think this camera would really benefit.
My name is Benjamin Lowy. I'm a photojournalist. I started my career when the digital age came out, so I started with the Iraq War and Afghanistan, and moved on to doing sports and politics, and now kind of graduated into underwater photography, and super excited to be here and give my input to this great camera.
Absolutely. And I'm Jeff Batari. It's a pleasure to be here and speaking with you guys today. And I'm very lucky to be on this panel because I feel like I haven't earned my way. I'm only 14 years in the industry. I'm a visual journalist, and I mainly shoot sports, action sports, including mixed martial arts for the UFC. I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. So let's dig right into the camera, starting with two of the things that I know attracted a lot of you guys, the shooting speed as well as the autofocus accuracy. So David and Rick, between the two of you guys, you've got about a bazillion Olympics together. Let's kick this off, starting with Rick. Tell me a little bit about what this camera can do for a sports photographer.
Well, there's two key things, actually three key things that this thing improves on. One is the frames. Nick mentioned it in his video. You're going to get twice as many pictures that are possibly going to be the perfect moment, and that's what this thing can. We haven't had that before. And being able to see it without the blackout is another important thing. That's really, really important. So, yeah, it's just more pictures. We're going to get more of what we want.
And David, I always think of you as synonymous with the decisive moment in sports, but you also cover a lot of Capitol Hill and politics and photojournalism. How do the same features aid that?
One of the things I really liked about it is that there's no blackout. And, you know, for years, as was noted earlier, it's been, 60 years since we've had single lens reflex cameras. The decisive moment on an SLR was the one you never saw. That's when the mirror was up and you were taking the picture, but you never really knew if you had it. And there was that gut-wrenching doubt. And the fact that this viewfinder doesn't go dark and it doesn't slow up, I think is fantastic. You really have this continuum of viewing, and you really kind of know it. When the first digital cameras came out, one of my friends said, you know, the great thing about digital is that you know right away when you've screwed up. And in a way it's kind of obvious, but it's true. It actually gives you a chance to make sure that you've got the picture, the one you're really looking for. So I think that's, for me, I think that's huge. Just, there's no blackout. You see what you're getting.
Perfect. So, Jeff,
Yes.
you have the challenging job of photographing UFC, where big, muscular guys try to pound the heck out of each other and knock each other around the ring and kick each other in unpredictable manners. And then to make it that much more interesting, you get to shoot through chain link on top of that.
Exactly.
So talk a little bit about like how the autofocus on the A9 helps that work.
Absolutely. Well, the first step is just being able to frame your subject. Your focus, now I can actually put the focus into framing my shot that I want, instead of having to try and track it within a smaller area with the traditional DSLR. Now I can expand that range of autofocus points through the frame and use my ability to make photos instead of having to force the camera to do more work than what it should. So for me, it's just it's a no-brainer. The autofocus is just fantastic. It's fast, and not just applicable towards mixed martial arts, but you can see it being beneficial towards NFL, NASCAR, NBA. Everything about it, it's fast.
So my fellow Sony artisans, Christine and Ben, shoot adorable cuddly animals like great white sharks. So Christina, talk a little bit about how the lack of viewfinder blackout is helpful photographing marine wildlife as well.
You know, I forgot to say that one of my qualifications is that I've been a Sony artisan since 2008, since the beginning.
Yes, we're
This-
right here with you.
Woo! And it hasn't always been easy, and today is an awesome day to finally get this. But to answer your question, wildlife photography is a game of wait, and then things happen really fast. And the unpredictability, you know, you never know in which direction a bird is going to fly, or a bear that's chasing a fish, or a whale that is bridging. It happens very fast. And so having the combination of super fast speed, the incredible autofocus that really covers most of the frame, and then being able to see actually what you're doing so you can see where things are going. I think it's a game changer.
And Ben, you were talking about how that affects your work as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously you have to pay attention to the world around you, and so this way you can pay attention to the world around you and try not to get eaten, which is always key, and also make images. Because at the end of the day, that is what we really are there for, is to make images, and you have to see the world around you in order to make them. And this camera gives you the ability to do that more than ever before.
Okay, so great, let's move on to silent shooting mode, which some of us who are Sony shooters are familiar with, but it really is new in a flagship camera. So David, Rick, maybe you guys can comment in terms of like what that means to the Washington press corps.
Well, certainly at the White House and on the Hill, you have situations where, you know, when you watch like a televised Oval Office event or a press conference, the president will make some little gesture, or Senator so-and-so will make a movement, and you'll just hear this barrage of camera noise, and it can be very disconcerting, and it just says, without wanting to, it says, I'm here, I'm the photographer. And really, silent camera enables you to be that silent witness, and you can be there, you can be present, you can make a picture, but you don't draw attention to yourself, and you don't disrupt the continuum of what's happening in front of you.
That's great. So, Christina, you were talking a little bit, like, as someone photographing indigenous people, does that aid in the work that you're doing as well with people that aren't familiar being in front of the camera?
You know, in some places where people are not used to having tourists or strangers, you really have to earn the right to become an intimate part of a community. And having a big flashy camera that makes a lot of noise certainly doesn't make it any easier. I think this innovation in silent shooting is, for me, one of the biggest things that's going to change my work, because it just makes it so much easier to disappear, you know, to become part of the fabric of a little community without drawing attention to yourself all the time.
Yeah, and Ben, I know you're already shooting silent shutter on A7R Mark II, which has that feature. Talk a little bit in terms of, as a photojournalist trying to be a fly on the wall, how does that benefit you?
Well, I think it makes a huge difference. In the course of my career, I saw that when I first started out, I wanted to have the biggest camera, the biggest lens bayonet, and I wanted everyone to know I was a professional photographer. Like, I'd run around, just with almost a sign that said press on me all the time. And as I went through Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya and all these other places where press were becoming more and more of a target, I slowly wanted to disappear more and more, and you started getting smaller lenses and smaller cameras, and now I just wear a Hawaiian shirt or Hawaiian shoes and try and look completely like a tourist, and I want to just disappear. And you know, when you go move on to even the silent shooting, like I've been working with police and covering the opioid crisis in America, and this idea that now I can shoot and I can just stand back and witness everything without letting anyone know what I'm photographing or when I'm photographing. It's really key to capturing like really intense, intimate moments. Probably as a photojournalist, and probably everyone here can attest to that, like the thing that I probably feel the most uncomfortable shooting is like at funerals, in a church while people, or a mosque while people are praying. There's sort of these really intense moments where you feel like you just shouldn't be there, but you are, and because that's your job. But having the ability to disappear, to not you know, infringe on other people's privacy with the click of your camera, this adds to our ability to make pictures and to communicate with the public, which ultimately is why we're there to begin with.
And Rick, as a Reuters photographer, is that a big deal for you as well, going into sensitive situations?
Oh, absolutely.
And not disturbing everyone?
Sure. I mean, if you, you know, we have to cover tragedy and you know, memorial services and things like that. And that's an exact example where you would want to have that capability. You know, our goal always is to be invisible as much as we can be. You want to be invisible to the world or something. I want to be invisible to the people that I'm shooting in a lot of cases. I thought about it when I was covering the first anniversary of Ferguson, and you show up with the big flashy camera, you're a target to both sides. The police don't like you there, the demonstrators don't like you there. If you have a small light camera and they don't even know when you're shooting a picture, it's a safety issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I love about it. It's like sometimes people will look at it like, well, how does someone know that you're a professional photographer when you've got that camera? It's like, God, I hope they don't. So,
and may I add something, you know, because we work a lot with camera crews, with film crews, and when the action is happening, it really is either the photographer or the guy with the video camera. And this is going to make it so much easier to be able to shoot side by side without being able to stop shooting because you're
yeah, I mean, that's a big deal. Like a lot of my friends who are unit photographers on film sets are already using the A7R Mark II or A7S Mark II to be able to shoot silently and not to have the point, because anyone who's been on a set with that, it's basically like having a big toaster oven that you put around the outside of your camera and try to shoot with.
Yeah.
And it's not totally silent, whereas this camera is.
So.
Even in a courtroom situation, we have to shoot trials a lot. When they still let a camera in there and it's silent, they'll let a video camera in there because it's silent. They might not let a still in because it's going to make noise. Well, now we can say, hey, we're equal to TV. We're going to be as silent as they are.
So all of the same cool situations you're able to cover alongside them and not separate exclusions for that. So.
You know, the TV, nothing personal, but you know, the TV and the audio guys are always annoyed when they get that overrun of still cameras in the background, and I think this could create a situation where the detente between stills and video can kind of get a little bit easier between, because there's no need really for that noise that we've been making for 75 years.
You know, and I should say with Jeff, I know you shoot at the ring a lot, and people imagine, obviously that's not an issue, but you also shoot backstage before the fighters come out.
Yeah, and that's not as so serious as, you know, memorial services and whatnot, but it's a fun atmosphere to be in backstage when you're shooting sports. So I can see it benefiting, you know, not just team photographers of any kind, but also, you know, for the mixed martial arts that I shoot. Backstage is very important to keep the fighter alone. Let them be intense. Let them focus on what they're about to accomplish. So if I can go into a room and not interrupt that, be in and out, nobody notices me, it's night and day.
And golf tournaments and tennis matches, I mean, I can imagine all sorts.
Well, you brought up something earlier in the video where you mentioned underwater, which most people don't think of underwater, but talk a little bit about some of the animals that you photographed underwater where the silent shutter is a plus.
Well, not just underwater, in every situation when you've been waiting sometimes for days and weeks for things to happen in nature, and finally a wolf or a bear or an orca appears, and you know, the first thing they hear is it's, I mean, you can see the ears go up, you know, they arch themselves and they run away.
Right.
So it's just also the spirituality of being in a situation when you're in nature, you know, the clicking of a camera is really annoying.
And
This is great.
Ben, you mentioned how it lets you shoot at the Masters shots that other people would
playing, you know, in golf, like you can finally get like Tiger Woods, if he ever plays again, but you can finally get Tiger, sorry. You know,
he's been waiting to come back for this.
Now
he's gonna come back.
Get the backstory.
You know, there was that great scene in the movie 2001 when Dr. Floyd is being taken to the moon to see the big black monolith. And he arrives at the space station, and this is the early 70s, I think. And they're having a meeting, and the photographer wearing this very 2001-ish kind of clothes comes in, he lifts his camera up, and there is no noise, and he just kind of says, "Thank you, Dr. Floyd," and walks out. And I think every photographer is seeing that thought, someday,
You're good.
someday we're going to have a camera that will actually let you do that. No noise. Your presence is there, but they're absolutely silent.
Well, we'll have to thank Stanley Kubrick for that one, right?
16 years former photographer, you know.
So the shutter sound is optional in this camera, and I can't imagine what.
No, but that actually is a good point. There is an optional shutter sound that you can add that's very quiet, but it can be helpful if you're doing portraits and want that little bit of feedback, so your subject knows you've actually shot a frame. So
that's your world.
Yeah. Okay. So you know that's kind of covered the silent shutter. Let's talk a little bit about size. And one of the things that happened is when they put the D before SLR, cameras suddenly got huge. I don't know why, but they got really, really big. And I think that the Sony mirrorless really brings us back to the size of Leica bodies and the smaller single lens reflex bodies. How is that smaller camera size advantageous to you, Ben?
I mean, I know when I was running around in the Middle East, going from conflict to conflict, I used to actually have bruises below my rib cage where as you run, the cameras would just slam into you. And compared to last year, I did a 125-mile solo hike across Tasmania, and I had 4 camera bodies and 6 lenses, and they fit into a small backpack. I mean, and to me, it's obvious is that you can have all the gear that you need for an assignment, and it just doesn't weigh that much, and you're not going to get scoliosis.
Yeah. So the choice of either packing lighter or packing more gear in the same.
You don't have to make that sacrifice anymore. You know, pack everything you need.
So that does come along with the lighter weight. The smaller size is lighter weight. Jeff, you're shooting. I think you told me sometimes 16 fights in an evening for UFC. You know, you're a young, strapping guy, but some of the rest of us were at one point, and carrying gear can beat you down really, really quickly. So talk a little bit about the end of the day experience of what you want to achieve with this lighter camera.
Yeah, I think for all of us as photojournalists and sports journalists as well, it's just we've been so used to having to deal with that heaviness in order to make the quality image, and I think it's finally the tide is turning. And now, like you said, I shoot up to 12 to 13 fights a night, but it almost feels like 25 to 30 by the end of it, with everything hanging on your shoulders and running around backstage. It's a lot. So I think just even with this and just building on what we've kind of talked about is portability as well. So now I can travel internationally to different countries and not have to stress about overages on weight, on certain airlines, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of different benefits, not just physically, but also, saving on costs.
Yeah, and especially international travel where they're a little bit more stringent than the U.S. airlines are in terms of you can haul on a plane.
Exactly.
So,
I'm getting called out on customs too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the great thing with customs. It doesn't look like you're coming in ready to do an ad shoot.
You don't look like you're a professional with 24 cases.
Yeah.
One thing I just say, like everybody here, I shoot now the last 15 years pretty much all digital, except that I also still carry a speed graphic 4x5 now and then.
And I love that about you, Dave.
And when you have 2 systems, And for example, last year at the Olympics in Rio, I had all that SLR gear that I needed to cover, plus a whole 4x5 thing. And a 20-hour day of that really beats you down. So the idea of just being able to have a couple of cameras and a couple of lenses in this new 1-400 really changes a lot.
And redundancy in gear, you know, when you're traveling to the middle of nowhere, you need 2 or 3.
I mean, you can only carry so much stuff and still be efficient and able to look around and be sharp, so.
Absolutely.
I love the size.
Yeah. So, and one of the new experiences, maybe for you, Rick, is the electronic viewfinder. And Sony's electronic viewfinders keep getting better and better. And I think those of us who use Sony will agree this is the best EVF that Sony's ever made. How was the experience for you versus shooting with the standard optical viewfinder? How did it differ?
Yeah, that was kind of a shock, to be honest with you. Now I'm looking through a TV screen, but a high definition one.
Yeah.
It's like looking at, you're in the front row of a movie theater. It's so bright, you can see in the dark with it. So I'm shooting in a very low light situation. I'm in a street demo somewhere, and I'm really not sure what I'm getting unless I see it. On the back of the screen, maybe I see it. In bright light, I would never see it. But you're looking through that, and you can review your pictures through the EVF. You don't have to take the camera down and look at the back of it anymore. You keep it to your eye all the time. You just hit that playback button, you can say, oh, I got that frame, excellent, good, I can move on to the next thing. You don't have to do what we call chimping, you know, where you would go down and you scroll through. That's all over now. You can look at what you've got, and it shows you if you're in focus. You can magnify it, you can zoom in, you can see, yeah, I'm tap sharp.
And was the ability to see in real time what you see is what you get, the exposure, instead of shooting it and then correcting for it?
Sure, yeah, that's a huge deal too. That's something, of course, no DSLR can do at all. So yeah, if it's underexposed, it looks underexposed. Oh, okay, valid on stuff.
Yeah, and I hadn't thought about this, but shooting underwater, you know, you have a camera in a case and then you have a viewfinder, and it's difficult to see through this thing. This viewfinder is going to make a huge difference for that as well.
Right, and David, you were saying something in terms of like, instead of taking your eye away from the viewfinder to chimp, it's like being able to see the image and play it back right away.
It's amazing because Rick's right. I mean, it's like you're in a theater looking. When your eye is up on the finder, it looks like a widescreen view of what you got. And you know, chimping is one of those things that, how many great moments have been lost to people chimping? You know, I mean, we've all seen those things when, you know, the president walks by and your picture, you're looking at your pictures afterwards and you see somebody 3 feet away from the CEO or the president walking by, and the guy's already looking at his camera. It's like, keep taking pictures. That's where the pictures happen. But it's great to be able to not have to do that motion. I mean, it's all up there.
And as a photographer in Florida, it's like shooting out in midday sun when it's really bright. It's like good luck seeing any LCD ever made out of that. Whereas being able to review through the viewfinder and see that image at that point is really helpful. Jeff, I know you've been using the RX100 Mark IV for your work. You've got it up here now. We call that the entry drug for the Sony system because so many people pick up one of those cameras and then see what Sony's about. You were already familiar with EVF. Like, what do you like about it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like you said, it's the entry level, you know, everything. For me, I was hooked immediately because it's, again, the customizability of the function. So you can turn the display on or off inside the viewfinder as well. So that's really helpful, like we were talking about. Not only can you see it live in the dark, essentially, you can also have the playback function in the viewfinder, which is really helpful instead of missing a moment rather than just keep the moment going.
Perfect. So this next question is for my fellow Sony artisans, Christina and Ben. Let's face it, there was one thing that was never a feature of Sony mirrorless cameras, and that was battery life. How much do you love this new bigger battery?
Wow. Me, you know, I was kind of waiting for Sony to say brand new camera, new system, but same old battery. That would have been a downer. The biggest thing for me, these camera 2.2 plus, you know, more available charge makes a huge difference. And I love it. You know, I've gotten used to carrying lots of charge cameras for the mirrorless systems. I don't want to do that. This is great. especially when you're working in places like underwater, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna think for an underwater housing, it's
Yeah.
a little more difficult to go up to the surface and change a battery. than-
Absolutely.
For what I do.
Yeah,
which
and
is,
opening the whole thing, and yeah, no, this is great.
And Ben?
Yeah, I mean, you no longer have to, I used to sleep with my batteries with like a hand warmer in a pouch inside a sleeping bag to keep them warm.
You still can do, you
I
can still do that,
yeah, to help me
Be
go to
kind of
sleep.
cute.
But I also think that dial on the back with the little joystick for controlling your autofocus points, like that is something that we have wanted for so long. To be
Yes,
able to-
folks, there is a joystick now on
That-
the
that
camera. A lot of
joystick is
people
amazing.
have asked for that as well, so it did make
Joystick
it
and
in.
battery is kind of like a
No, really pleased to have a new battery.
Yeah, and I know in the introduction, they said double the battery life. It's, I gotta tell you guys, it's way
Plus.
more than that. The first time I shot with it, I turned the camera in, it had a 40% charge, and I didn't even pay attention till I downloaded the images and realized I'd shot over 2,200 images. So 2,200 images of continuous autofocus, and still room to go.
So now
it's a lot.
if you have a grip with two batteries,
Yeah,
then
so,
all of a sudden you're
yeah,
not even
there's
thinking
also,
about power, yeah.
there will also be an optional vertical grip on it that holds 2 of the new batteries, so even more life.
But you
So-
can still sleep with the batteries.
It won't hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it's lonely out there.
Yes.
Sleeping
And-
is optional.
And also, as fellow Sony users, are you guys happy for the dual card slots?
Dual card slots are a big deal as well. You know, I don't know how you guys use yours, but I mean, depending on the situation, I may separate my RAWs from my JPEGs or my video from my stills, or I may, you know, if it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, my main, and I will back it up right in the slot.
Yeah, you have a lot of options with customizing where you want like RAWs, JPEGs, and video to go, and it actually makes ease of use depending on if like you're using a digital tech. If you have an assistant, like who you're giving cards to, if it's for video, if it's for still, like there's a lot of room for customizing your photo flow.
So David and Rick, one of the other features on the camera is the first Sony camera with an Ethernet port. Can you tell us a little bit, Rick, maybe about how you shoot and why an Ethernet port is important?
Yeah, working for a wire service, we're trying to be as much real time as we can. The pictures have to be on the internet almost at the same time anybody sees them on television. So any big event now, Reuters will go in and my colleagues from the other wire services do the same. We'll put the cameras on a network, we'll wire all of them together. So that means like the Academy Awards or the Super Bowl. I used it at the presidential debates last year, both political conventions. We were always wired, and every frame I shot was flying out of that camera real time to an editor and going to the world right away. That's a key thing for us now. And even on the street with Wi-Fi, we do the same thing. If I'm shooting a street protest, I don't want to have to go back to my car and try to transmit. I'm missing a cop car being lit on fire someplace. So I want to be able to transmit from the camera real time, and now we can do that with this camera in both the tethered and the wireless situation.
Yeah, and Jeff, you mentioned that you do that for the major UFC events as well.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things as sports photographers and the agencies that like Rick was talking about. It's vital to be able to do a live workflow where images are constantly going back to an edit station and being sent out to the world immediately. And that's crucial. So for Sony to be able to involve that and put that in there with this camera, and again, it's just incredible. And also, you know, not just to speak towards, you know, the tether, but also the wireless like Rick talked about. It's very beneficial for social media departments all over the country, all over the world, et cetera, et cetera.
Basically get images out immediately.
Exactly.
So in addition, we talked about the camera, but there's also a new lens, the 5th G Master lens, the 100 to 400 G Master OSS. That's a lens that I think you've wanted for wildlife, right?
I've been waiting for this lens for a long time. The fact that the lens is designed to work with the camera makes a huge difference in terms of speed, but it's also lightweight and it's super fast, sharp, beautiful, like, you know, most Sony lenses, they're known for these qualities. So having these long lens, which has a lot of built-in features that for my use are very, very useful. Like you can determine how smoothly you can, you know, zoom in and out. It's, for me, I've been waiting for a long time.
And so David, as a sports photographer, I think long glass is important. Like for years, when film didn't have the same sensitivity, a lot of us were trotting around with 400 2/8. How does the smaller, lighter lens.
I
address
used to be
the
6 feet 2. So. No, it's true. The simplicity in shooting with that 1:400 zoom is really, it's a beautiful experience. Very easy to rack the focal length and autofocus right on. And it's just I could see that and maybe one other body with a short zoom and carry all my other stuff as well. I mean, you don't have to have these 25-pound kits anymore. You can really boil it down to something that lets you worry about getting the picture instead of just where's all my stuff, which is sometimes you're just...
Right, become a photographer instead of a Sherpa.
That's what we're all aiming for, you know. I'm gonna miss those trips to the airport to ship film, but...
Oh, I thought you were gonna miss all the lenses you're getting rid of.
Well, and I know one of the things that I really liked about it is that it focuses really close, down to 3 foot.
That's
So with
amazing too,
a
yeah.
400 millimeter at 3 foot, it's like you're capturing eyes. It's
And it's almost unheard of in a lens this.
yeah, that's very unusual.
And it's very light. It's a light combination.
Yeah, and one of the great things, it really was designed for Sony mirrorless, so it's got very fast focus. It's got 2 focus groups in it, so some of the adapted lenses struggle, but this one focuses really, really quickly. Guys, I think we're about out of time, but I want to close it out and kind of closing thoughts from each of you. Christina, does this check off all the boxes for you?
You know, I've been shooting Sony for a long time, and I've always been amazed because every once in a while, you know, I get an email from Sony engineers in Japan asking me for feedback on this and that, or my wish list. And I honestly never thought, you know, that they were paying attention. But to me, this truly is a wish list come true. And there's so many other features in this camera that I love. Because I'm shooting above water and underwater, I use 2 different settings, 2 different sets of settings completely. Well, this new camera has my favorite part of the menu, you know, where you can store your settings.
I know part of the menu is my favorites. So
Yeah,
that's it, right.
and that to me is fantastic as well. So the joystick stick for autofocus is fantastic. Back focus button is amazing. A lot of great features.
Yeah.
They were listening after all.
Dave, is there part of the innovation that?
Well, I was really, you know, we got to meet some of the engineers, and you know, my 50 years, I've never met anybody who actually designed cameras before it and who wanted to hear what we were talking about. So I was really impressed by that. I was very impressed, and as a couple of people said, they've got features in there that you just had, you know, the kind of the gee whiz factor. You didn't even realize that that was something that you could use, and now you've already got it. So it's fun to see at a time when you would have thought the innovation had pretty much dried out. There was a lot of things that basically get you closer to just being the photographer and your subject together.
Free your creativity, forget about technology.
And I know, Rick, you mentioned that was something you were surprised at. Those of us who've been around Sony for a while, it's kind of commonplace that the engineers really do want our feedback. They do come up with these features like eye autofocus that I would never imagine, but they also want to address what we're looking for. How much of a change was that for you?
Yeah, that's night and day. In my 40-year career, I've never had an engineer from Nikon or Canon come to me and say, Rick, what would you like in a new camera? Never had that happen. So that was really, really refreshing to see. I mean, this camera to me is sort of one-stop shopping. I mean, we used to carry this camera for this purpose and that camera for that purpose. This camera, this single body has got almost, well, I think it's got everything I would want to have in one camera.
Yeah.
It's a high-speed camera, and it does all the things I would need a camera to do.
And I know, Ben, that's something we have talked about in terms of you carry a number of Sony bodies with you for different purposes, whether you need high-speed shooting or you need the full-frame camera or silent shutter. Does this kind of check everything that you need?
This kind of checks everything, but I think, you know, one thing we didn't talk about is durability, because everyone up here is not gentle with their equipment. You know, in the past, like on most of my cameras, you can't even see Sony anymore. It just got like brassed off, like dropping cameras, putting them in housings, hiking with them, running around, you know, political conventions. They get hit all the time. And it, you know, when I had other gear, maybe it would last me like 6 months to a year because you're just so rough on it. These cameras, surprisingly for how small they are, they last. They're lightweight, but they last. And that is key to me. And then the idea that we can go to the engineers or go to people that we know at Sony if there's a problem, if our gear, like, you know, if we just dropped it way too far, you know, and get that done and fixed really quickly, that's so key for when you're out there in the field.
Yeah, and Jeff, I'm sure as a working pro, that means a lot to you. They mentioned the added pro support is being enhanced here in the US with walk-in locations in New York and Los Angeles. How important is that pro service to you?
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, you know, these guys touched on everything, so I don't want to go too much into it, but it's phenomenal to have the support. It's crucial as a professional or anyone getting into photography. You need that support. You need to be able to know that your gear is going to be working, or before a big trip, you don't have time to rebook a flight and spend another $2,000 if your camera gets messed up. So if you can get that within a day and that quickly, that's amazing. But just to touch real quickly, I think this camera really allows us just to do our job that much better overall. It doesn't limit us in a lot of ways where we have been limited in the past, and I think that's something to think about, just to really take all the features. And you guys have seen the features, and you're gonna love it, and once you get your hands on it, you're gonna fall in love.
Perfect. Well, guys, I really want to thank you. It's been a pleasure being up here with you, but even more fun hanging out with you and getting to shoot this gear. So let's have a big round of applause.